Hi everybody, Pat Patterson, the Racing Guy. Happy weekend to you. Welcome to the Racing Guy YouTube channel, where this week, as you can hear over my shoulder, we're in Talladega, Alabama for a big racing weekend as we chase the championship here in the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series. Hey, we got another great special for you that we're putting here on the channel this weekend. It is from March 27th. 1994, the Lady in Black, Darlington, South Carolina. That's where we shot this Winston Cup special, Pat Patterson Winston Cup special that we're about to put on for you to watch here today. It was a fun day. We had a great lineup. Morgan Shepherd was with us on this program, Randy LaJoie, Jeff Burton, Ted Musgrave, and the one and only Rick Mast joins us on this program. It was set up right before the TransSouth 500 in Darlington, South Carolina. You know the old Lady in Black. She's a tough lady to race on. And we had a good race that weekend. Dale Earnhardt won the race. They had a purse of over $850,000 that weekend for the Cup Series. So we had a lot of fun getting everybody ready for a big weekend of racing in Darlington. So sit back and enjoy this Pat Patterson Winston Cup special all the way from Darlington, South Carolina, as we watch the cars race here in Talladega.
From Darlington, South Carolina, Western Auto presents the Pat Patterson Winston Cup Special.
And hi everybody, I'm Pat Patterson. Welcome to our second Western Auto Winston Cup special, getting ready for this weekend's great Winston Cup race over at Darlington International Speedway. It is, of course, the TransSouth Financial 400, and this is night number 2 of our specials, and we're glad you have joined us. Last night had a great lineup of folks, and mostly IROC drivers were with us last night, as IROC is running their second round for 1994 over at the Speedway. Also tomorrow, they'll be running the Busch race that, of course, is the Mark III Vans, trying to think of the name of it there. The Mark III Vans 200 will run tomorrow over at the Speedway, and then, of course, the big one is the Winston Cup race. And we're going to tell you all about the Winston Cup show on Sunday, as well as we'll talk to one of the drivers who certainly could go out and win the Busch event coming up tomorrow out at the racetrack. But right now, what we'll do is we'll tell you that coming up on this program tonight, Morgan Shepherd will be along with us, Randy LaJoie, Jeff Burton will be here, Ted Musgrave, and Rick Mast. We got a great show. Sit back and relax, and we'll be back with our very first guest right after this.
The Pat Patterson Winston Cup Special, brought to you by Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR. And by Competition Cams, winning with innovation.
Sure running parts, motor gunning parts, good time and head turning track burning parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
No matter what you drive, Western Auto's got the serious parts you need.
At the serious savings you want.
So you can keep your car running good.
Even if you only drive it on Sundays.
Western Auto, just up the road or down the track.
Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
Over the years, I've been pretty tough on cars, but hey, man, I wasn't paid to be gentle. Nowadays, I got a little bit different attitude. I own these babies. You know, the better we take care of our equipment, the longer it lasts. And we always use STP products and have for the last 25 or 30 years. Maintenance, preventive maintenance is what it's all about. The problem is, some crazy kid always wants to drive them.
And welcome back to the Comfort Inn just down the street from the Darlington Raceway, where, of course, all the excitement is focused for this weekend's Winston Cup event. Qualified 17th today, or going into Sunday's race, and he'll also be in the Busch race tomorrow. He qualified 5th for that one. And please welcome our first guest tonight, Mr. Morgan Shepherd. Morgan, it's good to see you, and congratulations on so far having a really good and tight year.
Yeah, pretty good at this point. We're 4th in points. And by the way, the race tomorrow is sponsored by Mark 3
Mark
Vans.
3 Vans, that is correct.
I got a new one ordered. You reckon if I talk about it, they'll give me a 50% discount?
You can, only if I can ride in it with you wherever it is you want to go. I don't know if they'll give you any discounts or not, but I know the people around here are sure excited to see you guys compete out there tomorrow.
Yeah, and I appreciate the folks sponsoring the race, because that's what racing's all about, is our sponsors keeping us going.
Tell us a little bit about the Busch race. You hit the ground running with that program, of course, down in Daytona, and I know that probably hasn't been as successful as you would like to have been so far, but nevertheless, Darlington's been a good racetrack for you in the past.
Yeah, it has. We ran 7th at Daytona, had a good strong run down there, and then went to Rockingham and ended up 13th, but went to Atlanta, and I couldn't believe it. Missed a show with the car. It just shows how competitive that division is. And we qualified 5th out here at Darlington, and hopefully we got a good shot at it tomorrow. I hope we can put that Cheerwine car out front.
Morgan, it's hard for us to fathom the fact that 55 cars, I think, showed up to try to qualify to make this show here, and that's been really pretty standard for the last 4 or 5 races, the opening part of this year. There's so many cars trying to make. For a veteran like you to have to load the car back up and miss the race, is that probably, if not the most humbling experience of your life?
Well, it is, but like I said, it just shows you how competitive this sport is. But, for a guy like myself to miss a show at Atlanta, when that's one of my favorite racetracks, but I didn't feel quite so bad, because I know Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett missed it at Richmond, so that made me feel a little bit better. But to pack up and have to go home, after this many years in racing, that's hard to do.
The Wood brothers, of course, have been really one of the mainstays of this sport for so many, many years. And you seem to have gelled right with those guys. It certainly appears that you have all the chemistry that you need to make this thing work the way you want it to.
Well, the Woods brothers team and Sidco is kind of like a perfect marriage for Morgan Shepherd, Pat. It's one of those things that's just really worked out well. They're the easiest people that I've ever been around to get along with, and they'll do anything they can to make the race car run out front.
Well, you talk about running out front, and we've got some footage right now of that race car, and certainly the run that you had down in Atlanta. What is it with you in that racetrack? I mean, it's just some magic seems to occur, and you take advantage of it every time.
Well, I didn't win, but we was in the hunt there at the end. Ernie and our cars was real even. It seemed like that I'd try a little something, I'd gain, and then I'd try a little something else, and I'd lose. But Atlanta's just one of those tracks that's been good to me. I wish I could get a little bit of Atlanta in a lot of the other racetracks. But Darlington's one of my favorites. I haven't won here, but I've ran good, and maybe we can pull it off Sunday.
The Busch cars and that particular group of cars that you're running with these days, as you said, is so competitive. What that ultimately turns into as well is the job that's got to be done on the pit road. It has got to be just perfect as well, because that competition also is tightened up. Everybody's got their act together on the pit road now. There's not just 2 or 3 good teams.
Right. If you got the car running on the racetrack and then you come in the pits and you don't get the job done there, then everything's wasted that you've done on the racetrack, and you'll not end up having a shot at winning a race or even having a good finish. But just talking about getting everything together, I found that you really beat the other guys at home. You do your homework, you do everything at home. That's what we did at Atlanta. We went back and restructured everything and came back down here and qualified 5th. So you got to start with housekeeper or whatever, right. Getting everything right from the very beginning, and then it'll show up race day.
If you can expand on it a little bit, when you say you go back to the shop and you change things, or I assume that you're not just talking about dropping people and picking up new people, but really from the mechanical standpoint, what do you go back and try to do?
Well, we knew that Atlanta, we had a good race car down there. That was our Daytona car. It should have been slick and fast. We had a problem in the engine department, and we're running the same engine, but the cosmetic work the air cleaner, the cowl work, the exhaust system. Those are the things that we worked on because the engine wasn't turning the RPMs down, so we knew it wasn't breathing, and it wasn't the engine's fault. It was the cosmetic work, the outside work that we tuned to get the race car to go faster.
Is that something you could have known? I mean, is there like a checklist that maybe before you left the shop you could have looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, we're a little bit off on this?
Well, unfortunately, we had a bad accident after Daytona. My crew chief came home. His dog turned on him, about chewed his arm off, had to have 2 operations, and so he didn't get back with the team until we went to Atlanta. So all this work wasn't done. And so when we went back home, he was able to correct all that. Matter of fact, Dick Schultz, he's a one-man army.
This opportunity that you've got as far as Sunday's concerned out here, you're 4th in the points, and I know that boy, staying as close as you can in that top 10 is so important right now. And you being a veteran, you know just how important it is to get the finishes. This place is awfully tricky, though. You really have to be. You can become a victim of circumstances here in a hurry.
Well, you can, and at this point in time of the season, your main concern is to go out and win races. And if you win races and run up front, the points are going to come on down in the season. When you get 3/4 of the way through the season, then you get dead serious about the points. But Darlington is a track that you come to. You don't attack the drivers. You attack the racetrack and concentrate on it. And try to keep the car out of the wall because you get to racing your fellow man out there, and next thing you know, you got a tore-up race car.
How important was it for you to be pitted on the front stretch and to make it in the top 20 today as far as qualifying went?
It is very important. I've seen it in the past. I mean, just the mental thing of having to go to the back straightaway, it hurts you. Everybody wants to be on the front straightaway. It's just like preparing for anything else about the race. It's a mental thing with having to pit on the back straightaway.
All right, that being the case, you also have come here and had to pit on the back stretch. Are you defeated right off the bat? I mean, if you don't qualify well enough to pit on the front stretch, do you look at it mentally and say, well, no matter how much I try to pick myself up, I know I've put myself in a bad spot?
Well, Pat, I think that's what happens. You feel that way, and when that happens to you, then you try to block it out and overcome it. But there's no way to overcome the fact that you've got to pit on the back straightaway, that you're going in after these guys have done pitted on the front straightaway, and you may go in leading a race or running second or whatever, but when that pit stop comes up under caution, you're going to end up quite a few positions back. You've lost everything.
We all know that Darlington was one of the very first super speedways ever built, and there is limited pit space in the front stretch, and it's always been this way, that there's been a back stretch. But if we could change it, would it be not more fair to everybody to have everybody pitting on the front stretch?
It sure would, and we've got several tracks that's that way, and some of them it's impossible to do,
North Wilkesboro, it is impossible to pit that many cars.
And same way at Martinsville.
Right.
There's no way you can get that many cars on the front straightaway, and it's something you have to live with. But at a track like Darlington, I think they could work it out. And then it would make it more fair for everybody.
It's great to see. I know you're excited about the Busch race and the Cheerwine car, and of course Sitco has been right there with you with the Winston Cup ride, and I know you guys are looking forward to Sunday. Appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us.
Thank you, Pat, and I would like for everybody to keep buying that Sitco gas and drinking those Cheerwines.
Don't forget that. That's right. Morgan Shepherd, we're glad to have him with us. He'll start 17th in the Winston Cup race on Sunday, and he'll go off 5th on the line of the Busch Grand National event. We have a lot more to talk about and a lot of great people to talk with, so we hope that you'll stick around as this special continues.
When winners head to the track, they go with competition cams. We're simply the best. Competition cams provide explosive power and unequaled reliability. That's why, hands down, we win. At Competition Cams, you get the same world-class service as a Winston Cup team. Customized camshafts in 24 hours at no extra cost. You see, we provide solutions. For technical help from the Valtrain experts or the dealer nearest you, call 1-800-999-0853. Competition Cams, we're winning with innovations.
Hard charging parts, smooth riding parts, big blocking and knocking and locking parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
Western Western Auto has over 100,000 parts available when you need them 7 days a week. Serious parts at serious savings. Hey, we know what you want.
Shelf stacking parts, fast tracking parts, good timing, head turning, track burning parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
And welcome back to our Western Auto Winston Cup special, getting ready for this weekend's big Winston Cup race over at Darlington Raceway. I'm Pat Patterson. We're glad that you have tuned us in. Want to remind you, as we always do, to please pick that pen and pencil up, whatever, write a letter to whoever you're watching this on, whatever sports affiliate it may be, and let them know how much you appreciate it. We do this about 25 times a year. We get together with all these drivers in front of selected races throughout the year, and we talk with them about either the Busch race or the Winston Cup race is coming up, and we hope you'll make it a point to follow us throughout the year, but you got to pick that pencil up and let them know all about it. Starting ninth on the grid for tomorrow's Busch Grand National race, the Mark III Vans 200 out at the big speedway, is Randy LaJoie. He joins us now, and Randy also is currently third in the Busch Grand National points. He drives the Fina Lube machine out there for Dick Moroso's team, and of course Fina involved with our Winston Cup specials, and what a great sponsor, and you're having a pretty good old time here this year, aren't you, my friend?
I sure am. Fina's a great company. They're totally with this race program. Got Dick Moroso back into this race program, which he hasn't been into for a while. He's dedicated himself back to the program. Fina, they have a bunch of divisions. They have a plastics division, a chemicals division, the gas stations, and it's just a wonderful company to be associated with. And not only that, they put together a great bunch of associate sponsors. We have Kool-Aid, Bluebird Fruit Juices, Bull and Hana Meat Snacks, and Northern Crystal Water. And, these are the backbone of our company.
And all of that is affording Randy LaJoie to have a real good time. And a good time you've been having here recently, right?
I'm having a great time. The race team that Bob Johnson and the crews put together is just, we're a little behind the eight ball. We started a little late, but we've run the top 5 every week so far. Had 2 bad breaks. Leading Daytona, broke a crankshaft. Was running top 5 at Richmond when somebody else blew up in front of us. We got crashed. We're running third in the points. Terry's leading it. Terry hasn't had a bad race yet.
We're talking about Terry Labonte, and of course Terry, a former Winston Cup champion. Terry qualified way back in the back for this particular event. Yeah. And I know that he'll be struggling to hold on to that points lead. It's going to be an amazing feat. But then again, you started way back in the pack up in Martinsville, Virginia, just a week or so ago, and found yourself running in the top 5 at the end of that one. Boy, it's difficult to run all day to begin with, but to run all day and move up as well and get the good finish, tough to do.
Oh, it is. We had a good race car at Martinsville, and I didn't try to do it here, but I did try to do it at Martinsville. I wanted to be on the pole. And I didn't want to be on the pole by a little bit. I wanted to be on the pole by a lot. And almost didn't make the race. The car got out of shape, and I just messed up qualifying. Luckily, they added 2 positions to the field before we got there, and we took the 31st. But we had a good race car. Got to the top 5, stayed in the lead lap. Guys did a great job in the pits and ended up finishing 4th.
Sometimes I think race fans have a hard time understanding just how much is really involved mentally in trying to qualify the car. Now, it used to be in years gone by, maybe we would take 38, 39 cars would show up at the racetrack, and there's 40 spots available, so everybody kind of relax. I mean, you're going to be in the show. You didn't have to worry about missing the show. But today, the concentration level that you've got to have to go qualify that car, there's a lot more pressure. Do you feel a lot differently qualifying now than you did maybe 2 or 3 years ago trying to make a Busch race?
Absolutely. When the fields are within a half a second, and the pole could be a 50, and you could run a 52 and be 12th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so tight of a field now. It's incredible, and you cannot give up a 10th of a second, which is, you ever try to catch a 10th of a second on a stopwatch? It's hard to do.
Yeah, and again, I think this is something that's real difficult for the race fan to totally grasp. It's like, look at your watch and see just how quick a second ticks, and imagine being from first place to last place in just a click, in a half of that amount of time. So it's really hard for people to until you really start thinking about it, how close the fields are. Is it better racing today? Do you feel like it's a better opportunity out there with drivers more qualified with the Busch Grand National Series?
Well, I tell you what, the Busch Series is I think it's very competitive. With the races being 200 miles, 300 miles compared to the Cup races, 500. The races, I think there's a lot more action in a Busch Series race all the time. we have to get after it real quick, and there's no waiting back or holding back on a Busch car. I mean, it's going to the front.
We're taking a look at some of the footage out of Rockingham, North Carolina, where, of course, you had a pretty fair run, I'd say, down there.
Yeah.
That's a good racetrack for you, and I know that that's a very demanding racetrack, just like all of these are these days. You really got to stay with the program.
Oh,
there.
we do, and I kind of got into Terry Labonte there when going for the lead, and then we got snagged on pit road for supposedly speeding. We had to go to the back. That hurt our chances. I think we had a car capable of winning Rockingham, and I had to apologize to Terry for passing him the way I did pass him, and it was just one of those racing things. He's got a little loose, and I got underneath him.
That's interesting. We're watching that right now. As a matter of fact, that, of course, was Randy running behind Terry Labonte as they go into the corner there. Terry, of course, driving the 14 car, and the 20 car moving right up on him, and maybe we got a little bit sideways there. I don't know how either one of you, really, to be honest with you, held on to the car, and you had to feel like your stomach was coming right out from under you.
By the time I realized what was happening, I was already in the backstretch. I got home and watched it on television, and I said, boy, I really don't know what happened. I know Terry got a little loose. I got up alongside him, got into him, and thankfully he lifted because I didn't. If I did, I probably would end up in about the third row. But
that's got to be a tough way to. I mean, you go home and you look at that and you say, well, if I'd have done this differently, maybe that would have occurred. Fortunately, neither one of you put it in the wall there, but
That's right.
But certainly that's the experience thing right there. Only an experienced veteran like Terry Labonte could have kept the car going in the right direction like that, whereas
Yeah,
perhaps
that's right.
somebody with less experience would have wrecked you and half the people behind you.
he wasn't as mad with me as he could have been because he'd come back to win the race. But his dad wasn't too pleased with me when I talked to him at Richmond. But, I didn't mean it, and I told those guys on the car I didn't mean it, and I told Terry I didn't mean it.
What's going to be a successful season for you guys? I mean, you capable of winning the Busch Grand National Championship this year? Do you feel that, Labonte's not going to run all of these, obviously, or at least I don't think he's going to run all of them, and certainly where you're sitting gives you an opportunity, but, boy, you can't afford any bad luck.
That's right. We've had 2 bad weeks already. We're still sitting third in the points. Kenny Wallace is going to be really tough. Robert Presley and Hermie Sadler. Then there's probably a couple more. We could just keep going the way we're going, have some more good top 5 runs, maybe bust off a couple wins here because we're running well enough to do it. We have a new short track car being built right now, which we've been lacking. And once we put that together, I mean, hopefully we're going to be making our chances even better.
You got something for them as far as this race goes here at Darlington?
I'm really looking forward to it. The last practice today, we run really well. If I get a good rhythm going tomorrow, this is a big rhythm track to get a good rhythm going and just race the racetrack. And I'm in really good shape for tomorrow, I hope.
I want to wish you a lot of luck. It's nice to see you, and I know that you can't wait to get to each race, especially when you got a car that's capable of winning. I know that means a lot to you, and hope it's a good, safe show for you here in Darlington.
Good. Thank you, Pat.
It's good to see Randy LaJoy, and we got a lot more people to talk to. Ted Musgrave will join us in a few minutes, and we got some other special guests. We hope you'll stay right there. We'll be back with more right after this.
Robert, all we need here is some oil and we'll be ready to crank.
Okay.
Jeff, get us suitcases. I have one. Yes, sir, right away. Robert, we're out. Get us suitcases and fly.
There's only one motor oil that Robert Yates Racing relies on for complete protection. Haviland Formula 3 from Texaco.
That was quick. Yeah, they had it right down the street.
The same Haviland Formula 3 you can use in your car.
The complete protection of Haviland Formula 3. Look for it at your nearest Western Auto store.
Have you ever dreamed of driving your own race car, but didn't think you could afford it? Well, now you can. Call 600 Racing and ask about the hottest form of motorsports in the country today, Legends Cars. Legends Cars are powerful 5/8 scale of the vintage stock cars that made NASCAR famous. Crafted from the ground up by professional stock car builders, Legends Cars offer a sensible alternative to other forms of inexpensive race cars. For more information, call 600 Racing at 704-455-3896.
And welcome back to the Comfort Inn, just down the street from the Darlington Raceway, where, of course, as we've been talking about for the last 2 occasions, there is going to be one heck of a good Busch Grand National race. The Mark III Vans race will take place on Saturday, and then, of course, Sunday, it's the TransSouth 400, and always a great show here in Darlington. It's kind of a tradition, springtime in Darlington, and getting the summertime cranked off. Let's take a look, if we can, at the top 10, how they'll line up for the Mark III Vans 200. Mark Martin has the pole and a new track record outside Mark Hermie Sadler. Harry Gant will start third. Ricky Craven will start fourth. And as we talked a few minutes ago, Morgan Shepherd will start in the fifth spot. Looking back now at the 6 through 10, Kenny Wallace will start 6th. Robert Presley, who's the defending champion of this race, will start 7th. Chad Little will start 8th. Randy LaJoy, who you just heard from a moment ago, Randy will start 9th. And David Green, who is certainly having a good run so far this year, David Green will start 10th for the race on Saturday at Darlington. Joining me now is a young man who had a great run down in Atlanta just a few weeks ago for the Stavola brothers, the Ray Besto sponsored machine. We welcome Mr. Burton with us, and it is awfully good to see you, and congratulations on a real good run down in Atlanta and qualifying about 22nd here. That's also moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we're not, obviously we'd rather come here and sit on the pole, but 20 seconds respectable starting position, and we'll be able to stand on that time and work tomorrow and just getting ready for the race. Being able to do that is a tremendous advantage rather than having to worry about qualifying again.
Jeff, I know that trying to get ready to race on Sunday does take a lot of extra time, and boy, if you're sitting back there trying to make sure you're going to be in the field, it does take a lot of focus away, doesn't it?
I tell you what, it really doesn't matter how you can run for one lap until qualifying. Every other, we race for 400 miles. We qualify for 1 point, however far this racetrack is. So really, you need to spend more time working on the race car to get ready to race. But the way qualifying is now, and it's so tight, it's hard to do that. It's hard to just come here and work on the race. You have to work on qualifying. If not, you'll miss the race.
And everybody knows that you were very, very successful in the Busch Grand National Series, and of course that success has moved you towards this Winston Cup, and hopefully we'll have the same success here. Is there that much difference in the amount of pressure that you felt qualifying the Busch Grand National car and qualifying the Winston Cup car? Not the fact that we know the cars are different, but how about just the situations themselves?
For me, no. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think that's one thing that helps me. Sometimes people say you're too uptight, but pressure on myself makes everything else seem easy. Right. Nobody. No business, no crew chief, no owner. Nobody can put more pressure on Jeff Burton than he can put on himself. So, I don't view Winston Cup racing any different than Busch Grand National. I view it as a race car, and there's other race cars out there that you have to beat. And if you can beat those race cars, you're doing your job. If you don't beat them, you're not doing your job. That's just the way it is. That's the way I look at it.
How hard is it to get in your street car after it's over with and drive away and not pound yourself all night long and the next day for what you may have considered to be mistakes that you made? Are you learning how to control doing that?
In the past, I didn't do that very well, but I've learned that in racing, Winston Cup racing and Busch racing, either one, you're going to make mistakes. The races are long, and it gives you a lot of chances to make mistakes. So what you have to do is kind of analyze yourself and look at the tapes and really watch yourself and listen to other people that you respect and try to get better. Nobody's perfect, and if you go ahead and accept when you make mistakes, try to not let them happen again. That's the key.
When you run an event that's as long as like 400 at Darlington, or perhaps a 500 mile or at a Bristol or someplace like that, do you run that race in segments mentally? In other words, can you go back and almost, through your thought pattern, look back at a race and say, I can almost divide it up in segments, where I was and the way I was thinking at that segment, and can they change a lot? I mean, dramatically in your own mind, your whole attitude towards the race. Can it change?
It changes. It changes per segment, like you said. If at Richmond, for example, we're sitting there running for the first 250 laps, we're in the lead lap. And that's all we needed. That's all we needed and wanted to do was stay in the lead lap. And then we got into a little altercation and got a lap down. So our whole strategy changed.
Did you get defeated right then? I mean, when you were a lap down, did you say, "Oh, that's
no,
it"?
Actually, no. It kind of pumps you up, because then you have to race. You have to change your thought and race a different way. So it gives you something else to think about. Before you just, stay in the lead lap, run easy, run slow, and then you turn around and you have to worry about getting that lead back, and you can race hard.
you know, I guess one of the things that I'm always curious about is can you make a mistake in the race car mentally, and can you forgive yourself in the race car and make it up in some way, shape, or form? Like, for instance, if somebody gets around you and you told yourself that the guy shouldn't have got around you, when you get back around that guy, are you at that point almost erasing the blackboard and saying, I've overcome what I let happen?
You've redeemed yourself.
That's the word I was looking for, redeem yourself.
Like I said earlier, there's a lot of the Earnhardts, the Ernie Irvins, the Mark Martins. These guys make very few mistakes. Jeff Burton, he's going to make mistakes. He's got a lot to learn in this division and in this sport. So when I make a mistake, I don't get down. I realize I have to make mistakes to learn how not to make mistakes, if that makes any sense.
They say two of the nicest guys in this whole business are the guys that own your race car.
I tell you what, Billy and Mickey Stavola have been tremendous to work with. The Atlanta race, us coming out as a new team and performing the way we performed, and Richmond, the way we ran in Richmond was excellent. And to see those guys smile, you know what I mean, to actually, you know, talk to them and they enjoyed what they saw, that meant a lot to me and it meant a lot to the team, because they've kind of been on a roller coaster every now and then. They won the Daytona 500 and then with Bobby Allison, and then Bobby Allison got hurt with them, and you know they've been on a roller coaster road in a lot of respects, but they've never given up.
If you can feel a comfort level, do you feel like you guys are reaching at that now, that you're beginning to feel comfortable with each other?
When we met about running together in '94 and in '95, it was agreed that Jeff Burton had a lot to learn. And Jeff Burton was not expected to win races right off. He's expected to give 100%, to work hard, to become a competitive race car driver in Winston Cup, and to become a winner. But if you don't win the first year, don't worry about it. If you don't win the second year, don't worry about it. Just show us that you care about what you're doing and that you're willing to try and do whatever it takes to win. And that's what they ask of you.
Boy, that's some kind of neat deal to fall into. And when you couple that with somebody like Ray Bestis, who obviously has not enjoyed, 20 or 30 wins or something like that, like some of these other sponsors have, but yet are determined and are utilizing the sport, in a business sense, and it's working for them.
Exactly. Ray Bestis Brakes and Douglas Battery, for example, they've been on that car, and I don't think they've won a race yet, but they understand that maybe you don't have to win races to sell product, but they want to win races. And that meant a lot to me, that Ray Bestis Brakes, they said, okay, this kid, we know he's probably not capable of winning a race right now, but in the future he will be. And if we back him and if the team backs him and we build him a foundation, then he can win races. And that's what it's all about. I think anybody that expects a rookie to win a race, everybody says, oh, Gordon's going to win a race, Gordon's going to win a race. And if anybody as a rookie's been capable, I think it was him.
Sure.
But even he didn't do it.
Sure.
It's tough. It's tough to do.
It's tough out there, but I know that you're enjoying it, and it's great to see. Maybe, who knows? I mean, stranger things have happened.
Let me tell you, I'm not saying we're not going to do it. I promise you that. I'm trying my best to do it, but you try to be realistic, and you try to work towards your goals. And our goal is to build a foundation for a competitive race team. If we can do that, then 3 years down the road, we'll be winning our share of races.
Well, good luck, too.
Thank
it's great
you.
to see you,
Appreciate
and good luck this weekend. Hope everything goes very
Thanks
well.
a lot.
Ted Musgrave and Rick Mast will join us in just a few moments. And don't you go anywhere. We're not through yet. We'll be back with more from Darlington right after this.
There's a lot of sand in the asphalt at Darlington. It's really hard on tires. The rubber on the tires ends up in the grill of your race car. Believe it or not, the most important guy in your pit crew on race day at Darlington is a man with a front end brush.
Sure running parts, motor gunning parts, fuel pumping, road bumping, brake stopping parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
Western Auto now has parts for nearly every car on the road today. Serious parts at serious savings. Hey, we know what you want.
Road hugging parts, load lugging parts, good timing, head turning, track burning parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
The car on the right was filled with Castrol Syntec, a synthetic oil, the other with conventional oil. They were then drained and started without oil to prove a point. You see, Syntec has a unique molecular structure that bonds to engine parts. Lab tests show it leaves a layer of protection far stronger than conventional oil. And if Syntec protects this well now, imagine if you leave it in. Castrol Syntec protects in ways other oils can't.